Hey guys, it's Friday, so it's time for a new deck. This week I'm going to be playing Izzet Control. I've already showed you two control decks, Grixis and Total Control, 3 and 4 color control decks. Pretty much both of those were heavier into the removal than the counter spells. I mean, I played Traumatic Visions in both of them, more for the cycling, but this one is more of a counter spell deck. I've changed it a lot back and forth. I've been playing it a lot the past couple of weeks. Not sure if this deck list is exactly exactly where I want to end up, but it's been the best one that I've found so far. So let's take a look at the build around cards. So I'm gonna play Talrand Sky Summoner. He's the main reason to play this deck. 4 mana 2/2, but whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So I mean, this guy rewards you for just playing spells, and so we're gonna play a lot of those. He's double blue. We're gonna play heavy blue. And I really want to play some counter spells in this format because I love, telling people that they can't have their spells. I mean, that's just something that I like to do. So, I mean, I've tried Young Pyromancer in this deck because he's similar. Instead of making 2/2 Drakes, he makes 1/1 Elementals. But he's a lot slower to win the game, and he dilutes the deck's actual number of answers that it has. So, I've tried him in here. I had to cut some counter spells and stuff, and it just didn't quite work. So just going to focus on the counters and the draw, and hopefully land a Talrand and kill him with that. So yeah, that's how we're going to start. So I'll just we're playing essentially what I like to think of as mono blue control, except in this format, mono blue doesn't have an answer, to tokens and boards that go wide. So you get two options for a splash. You can either go into red for Anger of the Gods, or you can go into white for Planar Cleansing. I've chosen to go into red for Anger of the Gods because it also gives you shock. And it also gives you Charmbreaker Devils as a source of card advantage. So, I mean, that's where I am with the deck. So I will walk you up the curve. Starting out, we have 4 1-mana spells. They are, like I just mentioned, Shock. It's absolutely fantastic in this format. 2 damage, target creature or player. Takes out all the crazy creatures that get in underneath your counter spells. The Rabble Masters, the opposing Talrands, the Killing Fiends, the Gutter Snipes, the Scope of Guildmage, Mentor of the Meek. All those crazy creatures. Shock deals with them all, So it's a great card to have access to, and that's one of the reasons I went red. The other reason is Anger of the Gods. Yeah, I'm not walking you up the curve, but I'm just going to show it to you because it's here. 3 damage to each creature, and if it was dealt damage this way, exile it instead of killing it. So there's no dice triggers, goodbye blood gas, no 3 tokens from sprouting through an axe. It's just an insane card, and I absolutely love to cast it. Planar Cleansing is 6 mana, and it's triple white, so it's a little bit slow. So I've gone into red for Anger. But the other reason, as I said, is Charmbreaker Devils. So we're going up to 6 mana here now. He's a 6 mana 4/4, but at the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. So he's a card advantage engine. This deck is playing counter spells, so we're going to drop him on 8 mana, hopefully with negate backup, and to protect him. And he's going to draw us an extra card every turn. I mean, it's random, but so is the card that comes off the top of your library. So this guy's absolutely fantastic if you can get him to stick. And if your opponent is tapped out, or if you manage to remove all his creatures, you can, his second clause says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, he gets +4/+0 until end of turn. So you can one-shot somebody with this. They can be on 20 life, and you can just cast a flurry of spells and just kill them on the spot. So the main reason we're playing him here is because of the card draw, but the fact that he can kill the other opponent in one fell swoop if they don't deal with him is pretty big upside. So we've gone through all the red cards, so let's go back to the beginning here and look at the blue. Playing 3 copies of Voyage's End. I mean, this deck is pretty heavy on the counter spells, so not much is going to resolve against it, but every now and then you have that problem creature that when you tap out for an Anger of the Gods or something. Or if you play a Charmbreaker Devils with negate backup, and then you let down your Dissolve shields, something is going to resolve. Or they could just play a Terra Stomper, which can't be countered. This gives you a way to bounce it back up, and hopefully counter it on the way back out. In the case of Terra Stomper, you just gotta kill them before it matters. But unfortunately, Terra Stomper is not a big part of the metagame. So we're playing 3 copies of that. You want to see one of these every single game, and that's why I'm running 3. You don't ever really want multiples. So 3 is kind of the number where I want to see it, but I don't want to see multiple copies of it. But we're playing blue control, so we're going to play all 4 copies of Think Twice. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. You draw a card for 2 mana at instant speed, and then you can flash it back and draw another card. So I mean, that's just insane. Negate, we can run 4, I'm only running 3. You know, it's a little bit, it's the worst counterspell in the format because it is a creature-based format that we're living in. So negate misses all those things. The main reason is to protect your Talrand and to protect your Charmbreaker Devils, with upside that, you know, it hits the obelisks, the Sphinx Bone Wands, you know, the Angelica Chords, and all those sorts of things. Even, you know, against tokens, you can counter Triplicate Spirits, Raise the Alarms, Crinkle's Commands. So it's a decent spell, and I'm comfortable running 3, but, you know, 4 is pushing it, honestly. If you see 2 copies of this in your opening hand, you're pretty much going to have to mulligan. So that's why I've gone with 3. Nullify, I mean, it's not a great spell. It's double blue. It counters creatures, and, you know, the aura right here, it'll counter a creature 99.5% of the time, and every now and then you might hit an Armored Ascension with it, but, you know, it's counter target creature spell. I mean, for 2 mana to counter a Block of Worm, Runescar Demon, Sheoldred, those big mid-range bombs, you know, even a Crater Hoof, now that he's in the format, it's good value for 2 mana, but it's heavy on the mana in terms of, you know, the fact that it's double blue, so hitting it on the second turn is pretty rough. That's why you know, that's another reason why we're playing Shock in the deck, because your counter spells don't get online until the 3rd, 4th turn. So, but you know, for 2 mana to counter any creature in a creature-based format is not the worst card in the world. And again, the whole thing about hitting auras, I mean, that's just upside. I mean, it's not why we're playing the card. And we move on to Dissolve, 3 mana hard counter with Scry. This is probably the best spell in the deck. You know, it just counters whatever you want for 3 mana, and you get to look at the top card of your library, say, you know, do I want it or do I not? And you know, that's pretty self-explanatory again in a blue control deck. Playing 2 copies of Talrand, as we said, he's a rare, so that's all we can play, and he's our primary win condition. You know, Charmbreaker Devils is playing the backup role, but still pretty solid. We're playing 2 copies of Archaeomancer, so it's 4 mana, 1/2. Stats aren't great, but we get to drag a card back out of our graveyard into our hand. So I'm playing 2 copies because, you know, you don't want this thing in your opening hand. You want to draw into it as the game goes along, just to yank back that Dissolve or yank back that Anger of the Gods that you need. Maybe it's a Nullify, maybe even just snag back an Inspiration, you know, to draw a couple more cards. But having some graveyard recursion is good, so I mean, I think 2 copies is a good number here. Playing all 4 copies of Inspiration to go alongside our 4 copies of Think Twice. I mean, that's how blue control decks stay ahead. You know, you hold open all your mana for counter spells. If your opponent doesn't do anything, you sink your mana and you get ahead on resources. So I think any serious blue control deck needs to play all 4 copies of this and all 4 copies of Think Twice, just to stay ahead on cards. I'm also playing 2 copies of Traumatic Visions. It's a 5 mana hard counter, which is not the greatest thing. Again, like with the Archaeomancer, we're only playing 2 copies because you don't want to draw this in your opening hand. You'd like to draw into it later in the game, but you know, at least this one, if you draw it in your opening hand, it has land cycling, so you can just ditch it and grab a land. So it gives you the freedom to keep those sketchy 2-land hands where, gee, you know, if I only could top deck a land, well, now you don't need to worry about it because Visions will go get you one. And in the late game, like you say, it's a hard counter spell. So. And it also, in duels, I mean, I like to play 25, 26 lands in my control decks. But, you know, I'm only playing 24 in this one because I've got 2 copies of Visions, kind of acts as... I count these as half a land each. So with 2 copies, you know, I consider that an extra land plus the 24 I'm playing. And we've got the... oops, that's nullified. And we've got the 4 copies of Think Twice as well, so... You know, it shouldn't be any problem hitting the first 4 to 5 land drops, and from there it should be just a matter of gaining control, depleting your opponent's resources. And the final card is this guy. He's not here as Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. He's essentially in this deck a 10 mana Elixir of Immortality. I hate, you know, the fact that I've only got so few win conditions. I've only got 2 Charmbreaker Devils. I've only got 2 Talrands, so if they get answered and they're sitting in the graveyard and, you know, you're just sitting there thinking, gee, I have no outs, I can't win. Well, Kozilek is the 5th win condition, and if they answer him, then you get to reshuffle all your other win conditions and draw back into those. Plus he draws you 4 cards, so he supplements the whole Inspiration and think twice plans. So he's just an insane creature. I'm pretty sure that every control deck should play this card. I don't believe in Elixir of Immortality. 5 life is just not enough reason. This guy draws you 4 and reshuffles all your threats and answers. So I think he's much better. So yeah, that's the deck. I'll take you over to the mana base. Like I said, I'm only playing 24 land. Obviously in control, we're playing 4 Izzet Guild Gates as dual lands because we don't mind the the tempo loss in the early game. We don't have a lot of early drops. I have thought about, and my OCD won't let me, play Crumbling Necropolis as extra copies of Izzet Guild Gate. If you don't have OCD, you should probably swap these in for some islands. It'll give you more red sources. But I just can't stand the fact that it has a black mana symbol on there that I don't have access to. So that's just me. I've got 12 islands and 8 mountains. So that's 16 blue sources and 12 red. The deck is mostly blue, as you can see. The only double red spell is Anger. So that's, 12 red sources it's actually not quite enough for Anger. If you want to hit it on the 3rd turn. But we have 2 copies of this, plus 4 copies of Shock to slow him down a little bit. Plus, it's dual, so you can usually get away with being a turn late on some of your spells. So I found 12 to be sufficient. Maybe you want to switch this out here, and add another mountain. Or maybe you do what I said and drop some islands for Crumbling Necropolis. That'll give you essentially some free red sources. But you'll have to take the land coming in play tapped. But that's it's a small price to pay. But I just can't do it myself. Anyway, that is the deck. Izzet control? Very few win conditions. A lot of counter spells. A lot of draw spells. And yeah, we'll see how it fares this week. I've been tweaking it back and forth and back. I used to have Gutter Snipe in here way long ago, when I had this deck pre-expansion, and then I tried Pyromancer in here. He was good, but not quite good enough, I don't think, because I had to cut some counter spells to fit him in. So I'm thinking that the current version is pretty solid. So we'll see how it does this week. Hope you enjoyed the deck tech. Hope you enjoyed the gameplays this week. And we'll see you for one of those gameplays very shortly. Thanks for watching.